Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining, as usual, on time. My name is Ophir Gutilson, for those of you that doesn't know me. And today, from Unacceptable, Neri Life Choma is also here. Hi, Neri.
Hi.
I'm based in Palo Alto. We are hosting today Colonel Retired Asaf Pizer Cohen. Wow, that's a long name, Asaf.
Yeah,
It's really a unique treat to have Asaf here. So I will introduce Asaf in a second. Just for you who doesn't know, Unacceptable is now almost 5 years since we started. Back at the time, we just wanted to say that an indicted prime minister is unacceptable. And since then, a lot of things changed. One thing didn't change, is still unacceptable. Um, we are here today, really on a day that, in one hand, we are very happy and thankful that there is a ceasefire, and it seems like it's holding up for now. The President Trump is definitely holding short on a short leash, both Netanyahu and the Iranians. So let's hope it's hold. On the other hand, we are still over 625 days, 627 days since the Gaza war started, and we have 50 hostages still there, and everything looks crazy. So we're going to try and unpack that. In the meantime, I want you to remember that we are probably going to soon going to shift momentum towards election in Israel, so we can cover that a little bit later. So please stay tuned and connected. Okay, so Asaf, welcome again. I will just introduce you shortly, but you're going to really cover your background. Asaf is someone that knows pretty much in and out the Iranian arena. He was the deputy chief of 8200, the unit. Some people call it the Israeli NSA. Asaf, is it really the Israeli NSA? Because it's
yeah.
one is governmental, one is army. I'm always confused about that. So you can
I
call
would say I would say the NSA little sister, but in some way we are better. So
it badass. Okay. And he's a tech guy. He retired from the army in 2020. And the way we are going to cover what we are doing is we're going to try to ground a little bit, talk about Iran. We didn't know if this would happen before or after the ceasefire. We didn't know what would be the situation. So we are really on a good timing for Asaf to cover that. So we're going to take about 50 minutes for a short grounding presentation by Asaf. And then we're going to switch to a conversation, and you can send me on the co-host questions. It's being recorded, so hopefully it will be good to share later. And let's give it a start, Asaf.
great. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's quite an honor to talk with so many people that actually care so much about Israel and what is going on over here. And it's unique time about the conflict between Israel and Iran. It's never ends. No one can actually assume that after the 12-day war, as President Trump called it, everything is settled down, and now we can actually fly through the sky into the peace between us and Iran. It's nothing near it. And I'll try in the next 15 minutes to give a short brief about what Iran is, about what is about the nuclear program of Iran. And then, of course, I'll be more than happy to answer any question about Iran and about the geopolitics in the Middle East, because everything is actually been changed over in the last 2 years since October 7th. So I'll share my slides. I wanted to say feel free to stop me anytime, but no, I'll cover what I have, and then I'll be more than happy to answer any question. So can you see the slides? Great. So just before starting, I have to say that Iran is a focus on in Israeli intelligence community for something like between 25 to 30 years. Actually, I've been dealing with Iran since 2006 in all kinds of roles, both in the Unit 8200 and the research division within the IDI. And I covered Iran from all kinds of spaces, both the nuclear issue, the decision-making arena, how the process is actually going on in Iran. We try to understand how the Iranian actually thinks about the issue, the main issue that bother us, in order to understand how is the proper way to deal with it. And it's not just about gathering intelligence and talking about intelligence. It's about how you actually do an operation based on this knowledge in order to foil, for example, the nuclear program and other stuff. But before I delve into Iran, few things about myself. So at the left side, you can see my greatest achievement, my two sons. Actually, I have to update this photo. One of them is 15, the other is 8, both of them from surrogacies, one from India and another from the US. I can write books about this process. I won't go into it this moment. As I said, I've been most of my life in 8200, 26 years in the IDF, most of them in 8200, dealt both with intelligence, cyber, data, from all kinds of aspects, more technical, more business side, whatever, actually everything. And at the end, I was the deputy commander. I was charged about the foreign relations as well, including, I talked about the NSA, including our close, very, very close connection with the NSA. I have some very good friends that still them, including the last commander of the head of the NSA that finished his role. I think it was 2 months ago when the Trump administration take in. I founded the company. I got released from the army 5 years ago, founded the Taurus. The Taurus dealt with the real-time data infrastructure. I won't go into that at the moment. And unfortunately, I had to close down this company. Actually, we're in the process of terminating the Taurus as we speak. We discovered that we had a great idea, great product, but actually we had some difficulties selling it. So I'm moving to my next challenge, my next chapter, and we will see what happened. I have a master in the history of communication, the history of the Middle East, and I did an executive MBA in Tel Aviv University. And for some fun, I have some time in the channels over here in Israel, in the TV channels, as an Iranian expert. Those days, actually, it's much more about explaining what is Iran and what is nuclear and what is everything, because there is a lot of talks on TV. Most of them, I would say, less relevant, incorrect, and I actually try to bring some knowledge into the debates that's going on TV. That's me in a nutshell. Let's go and talk about Iran. So first of all, when we talk about nuclear, a basic, very, very basic understanding about what we mean or what we need in order to create a nuclear weapon. So first of all, before the elements that we need for the project, we need to remember that most of the countries in the world is a part of the NPT, the non-treaty, that actually those who actually signed the treaty is allowed to have knowledge about nuclear and actually allowed to have civilian or a nuclear program, like most of the countries in the world. There are actually just 4 countries that didn't sign the NPT, by the way. It's India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel. All the other countries in the world actually signed the NPT and are fully in and are allowed to have a nuclear program. Yeah, there are just 5 official members of the UN that allowed to have a nuclear weapon: the US, Russia, China, France, and Britain. All the others are, of course, we have India and Pakistan, and some says that Israel as well, are actually not allowed, and North Korea, of course. They are not allowed to have a nuclear weapon. There are a lot of issues about who is allowed to have it and who is not. I'm just saying as a ground rule, we won't go into it afterwards. In order to have a nuclear weapon, we need four main elements. First of all, fissile material. When we talk about Iran, we talk about uranium. Uranium actually exists in nature, but we have to take the uranium from nature and actually have some mechanism going on it in order to prepare it to be in a shape to be able to create from it what we need to create a bomb. This is why we talk about enrichment. This is why we talk about centrifuges that actually allow allow the Iranian to transform the uranium from what we call 0.7% pure to 3.5, 20, 60, and 90. That 90% is what is needed to be for a nuclear bomb. The Iranian mastered the knowledge. They knew how to do the 3.6%. It's actually most of the countries in the world that have a civilian program use uranium at 3.6% purity. The Iranian mastered the knowledge. They did the 20%, and hence doing the 60% and doing the 90% is actually not a technical challenge. They know how to do it. It's just a matter of time. And I would say no one actually to interfere them to do so. And when we talk about what is going on today, if they have obtained or the remaining of the material, we talk about the 400 kilo afterwards that everybody talk about. But if they have the 60% uranium in their hands, they can do 90% quite easily. The second is what we call conversion facility. After we have this 90% or 20% or 60%, doesn't matter. After we actually did the enrichment part, we need to actually take the uranium and create a metal from it. This is actually, we're converting what we had in gas into a metal, so we actually will be able to do all of the weaponization of the uranium itself. So we will be able to create what we need in order to create the explosion and the enormous amount of energy that is needed in order to get the nuclear device to operate. The weaponization side is quite complicated, I have to say. This is one of the things that you actually can't read on the left. You can read about enrichment and conversion on that. You can't actually get the right knowledge about weaponization. It's hard, it's complicated. Just very few countries in the world actually have the knowledge how to do so. Iran is one of them, by the way. There are very few ways to do weaponization. And actually, you know, when I talk about weaponization, is how I create the process that create the energy. We take the metal, we create a ball, and there is a circuit that's going on in the ball that actually create the effect that we need to burst the burst of the energy. To create this effect, this is what we call weaponization. And it's not just about the ball itself, it just it's how actually we put it in a carrier. And when the carrier is reaching the target, actually the explosion allows this process to happen and to create all the energy that we want to create when we talk about nuclear weapon. And the last element is the weapon itself, the carrier itself. How actually we deliver the nuclear weapon to any spot. We can do it by missile, we can do it by plane, of course, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It can be done by rockets. It can be done by car. There are a lot of things that we can do, a lot of carrier that we can use. When we talk about Iran, we talk about missiles, long-range missile, by the way, not the short range. Short range is a different story because they're aiming very, very specific target, Israel and some of American entities in the Middle East. And so they're very much focused about the missile program as a part of the nuclear program. This is the four elements. I'll talk about this element at the end when I'll explain what is going on with them now after the 12-day war. Okay, a little bit about Iran itself. After I talked about nuclear in general, we need to understand that Iran is different from what we used to think about. Iran thinks about itself as an empire. They were here always. They are going to be here always. They think about themselves as a lion or as a tiger, even though, you see the picture, they're quite a kitten sometimes, but they look at themselves as a tiger. They think that they're one of the main empire in the world, not just in the area. But at the same time, they're very, very much paranoid. They think that after the revolution happened at 79, they're actually sure that someone is actually chasing them all the time and trying to do another revolution. By the way, they're right. It's not just paranoia. And the last thing I have to say, as I said, they're here to stay. And the processes over there is not about what is going to happen tomorrow. It's about what is going to happen at the end. And when they decided that they want to have a nuclear program, a nuclear weapon, not just program, nuclear weapon, after the Iraq-Iran war, it wasn't about let's have nuclear weapon in 5 years, but let's have nuclear weapon that allow us to protect the revolution. And if it will take 20 years, it will take 20 years, 40 years, 60 years. We're here. We're not going anywhere. Slowly, very, very confident. It's not about what is going on tomorrow. It's about doing the right stuff the right way and achieving their goals. Okay? Very, very important, because actually this is a part of why they haven't achieved a nuclear weapon until now. They could. We did a lot of things in order to foil the attempt, but at the same time, for example, in 2003, when the leader, the supreme leader, decided to stop the nuclear program because he sees what is going on in Iraq, he said, he doesn't say, okay, I abolished the nuclear program. No, I say, okay, I will stop it for a few years. We are going to go back and to do it because we need it as secure for our revolution for Iran. So why they want nuclear? Actually, I think talked about it. First of all, deterrence in general. By the way, they look at North Korea and they say no one actually play with North Korea. They don't want anyone to play with them as well. If they will have a nuclear weapon, they actually secure the situation. It's a conflict between Israel and Iran. They claim Israel has nuclear weapon. In order to cope as equal, they need nuclear weapon. And the third and very important issue, they want to be part of the big boys club. Everybody, there is the elite club of those that actually have nuclear weapon. They want to be part of it. They see themselves as an empire. So why not? They need to have the same like others. This is the main three issue. By the way, sometimes people say, hey, they are going to obtain a nuclear weapon, and the next day, actually, they're going to destroy Israel. No, they're not going. They want to destroy Israel, of course. But the nuclear weapon will help them to do so. But it's mainly, first of all, as deterrence, as securing the revolution. And if they don't see any threat to the revolution, they have no reason to use, if they had, of course, the nuclear weapon. I won't go into everything. It's a lot of pictures. I think there is mainly three phases within the nuclear program arena. The decision about going on into that, this is the first line actually, going into the nuclear, as I said, to secure the revolution after the Iran-Iraq war. They got the blueprints from Abdel Kader Khan from Pakistan. He's actually the mastermind after that, and they obtained the knowledge and went from there. The stop actually of the program after Saddam was down by the Americans. Actually, they decide, and there was sanction put on Iran. They decided to halt the program in order to maybe to stop some of the activity against them, and to actually again secure the revolution. They were afraid that actually they are next after Iraq, and they wanted to give the America no reason to invade Iran as well. At the same time, by the way, they went on with the missile program, including very, very close cooperation with North Korea. We discovered Fordo. This is the last one over here. We discovered Fordo in 2009. It actually is a secured enrichment facility. It's actually a very small facility, 2,000 to 300 centrifuges. There is nothing to do with a civilian program. You don't need so small facility to do a civilian program, and it's well kept in the mountain. It's well secured, very, very hard to attack. They understood that the main facility in Natanz is not secure enough. It can be attacked. So they built Fordo or Com, near Com, in order to secure the possibility to go on to enrich uranium if Natanz will be attacked. And the third line, actually, it's about diplomacy. The sanction leads to the JPCOA at 2015. President Trump withdrew from this agreement in 2018. What it actually makes Iran run much faster in the enrichment phase and in weaponization. Actually, they make quite a great progress because they said they are not a part of the deal anymore. If there is the sanction coming back, so they are not they are not need to obey the agreement. Another try to reach an agreement, and what we see actually the last few days, both the strikes of Israel and then the United States on the main facilities and the main knowledge, the main people actually was leading the nuclear program. And actually we're entering now a new era. It's not an era without, by the way, a nuclear program, because the Iranian, we didn't damage their intention. We damaged their the facilities, the people, but the intention are still there. Actually, maybe some of the people said that actually the motivation is even higher, because now they understand that the main assumption that they need a program to secure the revolution is actually right. If they had a nuclear weapon now, no one would hit them. The regime wasn't in stake at the moment, and now actually it's not stable. I have to say it's not going to fall, but it's not stable. What we did in order to stall it, in just few words, not going into details, but we took care of the main characters mainly in the weaponization part, what is called the SEPAND or the weaponization group back then. We actually finished the job now in these 12 days. The sanction were very, 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 very effective, because the economy of Iran is in the worst time ever, and actually it's been like that in the last more than 10 years before the GPA was signed. There were a lot of cyber activity going on against some of the main targets within the nuclear program. I think one was actually talked about and published, the Olympic Games, where a cyber worm hit the main centrifuges facility in Natanz. It actually got the main hall to crash. And so the Iranians need to go back and to install a lot of centrifuges and actually start all of the process again. And at the end, there is always the fire. What actually been doing at the last 12 days, actually hitting both facilities, people, in all four dimensions that I talked about. And this is great opportunity to talk about what's actually going on today, because one of the main questions is, okay, have we hit the program? Do they have a nuclear program as we speak after the 12-day war? And it's not a very easy question to answer, because I think it's too early to say, because it's not just about whether the American hit Fordo and Fordo can or can't be reproductive. It's more about the combination of all the parts within the program to a whole. And when we look at everything, I can say honestly, the program got hit quite severely. Whether they can go on and maybe do something with it in the future, I can't say they wouldn't. And maybe I'll save it to the last sentence. But when I look at the elements, so we destroyed the main facilities, both in Natanz and Fordo. Fordo is hit badly. I don't think that actually will be able to restore it. It's the same with Natanz. All the centrifuges in Natanz actually was blown away, that they can't use it anymore. And there was, I think, approximately 15,000 centrifuges over there. The site of the conversion in Isfahan was severely damaged. once again, it won't be reproductive. I have to say, honestly, it's not like the enrichment part where you need a facility. It's quite easy to do conversion in a small part without all of the tunnels and everything that was there. It was some of the activity in Isfahan was for research, for other purposes as well. But the site was actually very much damaged, including the infrastructure in it. We actually assassinated the main characters in the nuclear program. And when we talk about weaponization, it's mainly about knowledge. And some of the people actually know very well. We've been going on exploring what they're doing for the last 20 years. They are the heart of the program. They, sorry, they actually did, with their hands, with the bare hands, they did some of the weaponization. They know what to do. Now, everybody asked me, okay, there wasn't any, they haven't transferred the knowledge. There weren't others that worked in this group. Yes, there were others. But when you walk about something, they weren't managers. You say, hey, someone is in the organization 20 years, he's the manager. He doesn't actually deal with the details every day. No, they were in the details. Where they were the nuclear program. So hitting them, taking them out of the equation, it's a big deal. Again, there are others that can go on and work in the program, but it's not the same level of people that we used to monitor. And we hit quite severely the missile arsenal and the missile program, even though they still have missiles, long-range missiles. We didn't took everything, both the missile itself and the launcher. So in this part, we saw just today, this morning in Israel, a few hours ago, that they can go on and launch, even though we hit them quite severely. So as I said, it's about the accumulation of all the four. There is a main question that always, we talk about a lot in the last few days.
Yeah.
About the material itself, because the Iranian enriched some of the material, and they reached 400, maybe even a little more, kilos of uranium enrichment to 60%. As I said, going from 60 to 90, what is needed for a bomb, quite easy. And it was installed in the conversion site in Isfahan. And the Iranian claimed that actually they took the uranium from the facility before it was hit. And until, I have to say, half an hour ago, I didn't know, and no one said actually that where the uranium is. I saw one message, not message.
A post, yeah.
Post,
Yeah.
thank you. That some Israeli guys said to Saudi that actually Israel know where the uranium is. This is crucial because it's both about where they're taking it to and, of course, what they're going to do with it. Because if they have obtained the material and they put some centrifuges, and they have centrifuges, somewhere they actually can enrich to 90% quite easily in a matter of weeks for one bomb. If they want more, they need some more time. And if they can go on, and as I said, I think they can go into weaponization, even partly, they can create a situation of nuclear experiment. And to the stage where we are at the moment, it's enough to change the Middle East. They don't need a bomb, because if they can create an experiment, they can create a bomb. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
No, go ahead. I mean, I just want to move to the questions, so just finish your
okay.
thought. Yeah.
So I talked about the 400 kilos, but I have to say that when I look about everything that's going on in the Middle East, I'm in the optimistic side, because the Middle East has changed after the October 7th. Everything is changed over here. It's not the same. And I think this is the time that actually, if we take the opportunity, the new opportunities that actually lies ahead, we can create new alliances over here. It's not about Iran. It's about Syria and Lebanon, and even those actually we have alliances with, Egypt. And we need to finish the war in Gaza, of course, and we need to do something else that actually will help Israel to evolve and to create new economics new alliances in security and intelligence, in transportation. There is a time of change in the Middle East. If we won't do it, if we won't create a tough alliance, someone else will do. So this is a great opportunity that we need to grasp and to hold to it, and to actually to be the one that actually shape the new Middle East. I'll put a point over here, and I'll be more than happy to answer any question.
Can you stop sharing? Excellent. Okay, well, that was fascinating. I want to kind of like take it from where you ended, and you said like now it's a new opportunity. I mean, and the big question is always like, could this opportunity was lying even 12 days ago, basically, with an agreement, with diplomacy, assuming, as you said, that this is an empire that would want to stay forever and doesn't want, and they want to secure their revolution. I mean, the reality is that in order to optimize the military achievement made, we'll have to go to an agreement with the Iranians in order to stop to hold them back. What do you think is going to do bring them to the table? And in a way, if you have any idea, why is the Qatari is again in this game of negotiation? Like Qatari was funding Hamas, Qatari was funding some of the aids in Netanyahu facility, the aids of Netanyahu. Qatari is funding everything. I mean, obviously, in the US, they have tons of relationship and giving an airplane to President Trump. So how do we bring them to the table, and what do we need to give in order to get we as US and Israel and the war?
So from the Iranian point of view, ceasefire with no agreement actually is the worst situation, because 12 days ago they have negotiation with the United States in order to lift the sanction. This is what was the main goal for them to enter the conversation with the United States, and they were willing to be very flexible, not to forgive them for the enrichment part, but there was very much flexibility over there about the terms. They need the sanction to be lifted, And now actually, when the most of their assets in the nuclear program has been taken away anyway, there is much more leverage for them actually to reach an agreement, because it's not about actually we need to compromise, we need to forget about our enrichment program. It's not about that anymore. There isn't an enrichment program. It's maybe about intention. But now actually, diplomacy can find the right words in order for everybody to be happy about what is going on. It's not about making Iran surrender, because they will never surrender. It's not about making them humiliated. It's about making everybody to be happy about what is going on. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, but they will be able to flourish with their economics. Israel will be secure, and the United States actually will gain a lot of economic profit in stable of the Middle East. Iran actually coming back to the table, and I think they're coming back in a different point of view, and they want to reflect the strengths. They want not to be familiarized or to be noticed as those actually surrounded, especially when they look into Iran to the public. About the question about Qatar, it's a very interesting question, by the way. I think actually they succeeded to make them applicable in every court, especially in the US court. So they can talk with everybody, even though they're involved in all the bad stuff is going on over here. But they can talk with everybody. And due to that fact, they once again, though they actually have maneuvered in the Middle East, they're connecting the dots, and even with the retaliation of Iran against the United States, actually, someone told the Qatarian suggested that the Iranian will hit the base that are in Qatar, and the Qatar won't retaliate to Iran because it's in Qatar. But Iran, the American doesn't have to retaliate. So it's very odd situation, but I think money buys everything at the end.
Well, that's what worried us in many ways is that I mean we used to have an alliance with the U.S. As the first priority and most important share, and it sounds like oil is coming now, and money of the Gulf countries is coming in priority to President Trump. But let's dive to a different direction. I want to talk about intelligence. I mean, so we went to war based on some intelligence that seems to have the Israel had and the US didn't have, or maybe it was a different analysis. So, as an expert in this field, I'm like, how do you differentiate between the way Israel identify intelligence and why do you think if we actually went to this war? Other than, of course, for the last 30 or 40 years, we always was 3 months ahead or 3 weeks ahead. There was a prime minister that built his career on that. What was the change? And I mean, and you mentioned what we bombed already, but was it enough in a way?
So we've been collecting intelligence on Iran, as I said, for 30 years or 25 years about the nuclear program, and most of it actually been shared mainly with the NSA and the CIA. And actually, you know, all the time we had debates about the understanding and the assessments about where Iran is going on, what is the phase, how long it will take them to reach a nuclear bomb. The Israelis were always a little bit more radical than the Americans, but it's more about how you actually, some of it reads the report, some of it calculates the time and the material that you need in order to create the nuclear warhead. I have to say honestly, in many of the nuclear program itself, at the last 2 weeks or so, nothing really changed. So the Iranian has been doing the 60% enrichment. It's not new, it's for a few months already. They have been doing some progress in weaponization, but this progress actually was being done in the last few years. The scientist is always going on. They're always working on the next thing. It's not about the leader decided that he wants to build a weapon and he told them, okay, I halt you in 2003, this is the time. Let's have a nuclear weapon. No, I have to say honestly, even though at the beginning of the war, there was one or two people that actually said, hey, we had the new information that Iran actually is going to build a nuclear weapon as we speak. I understand this is not the case. The situation, the geopolitics in the Middle East changed. After actually we took all the first circle around Israel, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, the Iraqi, and actually there was no one to protect Iran because, you know, when Iran built their defense mechanism, they say, okay, we have our first encounter will be all the militia. Then actually we have our aerial defense that won't allow Israel to do whatever they want over here, or the Americans, by the way. And the third, we have our missiles as a manner of retaliation, especially against Israel and Saudi and all the Emirates and the others. And actually what happened to them is the first belt actually collapsed. We took some of their aerial defense back then in October. This, by the way, they was in conception that we're not going to attack, so they didn't understood all of it. So what changed was circumstances. Actually, Israel looked at it and said, hey, this is the right time. They're in the weakest spot. We can do it. We have an advantage that we didn't have in the last 20 years or so. So we have a small window to hit the nuclear program. It's not about the change in the nuclear program itself. It's about change in the circumstances in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I read the American assessment at the CIA said, hey, the Iranians were three years away from a bomb. In Israel, by the way, I understand that they talked about a year and a half to 2 years. This is quite similar. Once again, it's about how actually you do the research and how you read the report. Between 2 years and 3 years, it's not very much different. The main difference is the Israel understood, the decision making is understood, is we have a great opportunity that maybe won't last very, very long.
There is I want us to go to the idea around as you said, like I think you called it the NATO of the Middle East or somewhere you mentioned it. The I mean, at the end, I mean, like between the river and the sea, there will be always the Palestinians and Israelis, and the previous agreements, in a way, the Abraham Accords assumed that we could bypass the issue. I mean, do you think that, and on the other hand, obviously, the Islamic Republic was funding and was always trying to use the Palestinian issue as a motivation and to keep them away from peace. And of course, I mean, how do you see the weakness of the Islamic Republic in the ability to move forward and into solving the conflict?
I think it's not just about the conflict with the Palestinian, it's about the conflict in general. There are main two issues over here. First of all, I think that the fact that there was the nuclear program, the possibility that Iran someday will have a nuclear weapon, actually inflicted not just Israel, but all the area. Most of the country didn't want anything to do with Iran because they didn't know when it will hit them, both with the nuclear, but with all the militia in the area, the militias in the area.
Yeah.
And now, actually, when this threat is no longer at the moment, it's no longer relevant, actually they can have their own opinion. You see what is going on in Syria. Actually, al-Shara say Iran is my enemy. And I'm more than ready to go on and to have alliance with those enemies, other enemies of Iran. Lebanon said to Hezbollah, it's not about you anymore. It's not about us. We're not a part of this quarrel. We are more than welcome Israel to talk with Israel about issues in the area. So it's about the lion or the tiger, the Iranian tiger is like more like a pussycat to the area at the moment, I have to say. They will rebuild themselves, but at the moment. And of course, the Palestinians say, hey, we had someone that we could rely on, especially from economics point of view of mine. And we're not sure that we will be able to count about them in the near future.
You mean
So,
you mean Iran?
I mean Iran, yeah. I mean
Yeah, I
Iran.
mean, obviously, only Hamas was kind of like built on that.
Hamas
Yeah.
in the Islamic Jihad.
Islamic Jihad, yeah.
So now, actually, as I said, you can go on and say, okay, we reshape the Middle East, we create the new alliances. Everybody that is a part of this alliance will enjoy economic security, etc. And those actually are not a part of this alliance is an enemy. As I said somewhere, like NATO. Everybody in NATO has the obligation, but get quite a lot of things out of them being a part of NATO. It's not, Ukraine wanted to be part of NATO because they understood the advantages of being a part of NATO. If Iran is willing to be a part of the new alliances, maybe we can do it as well. I'm not sure about it, but maybe. But if not, if we create the alliances with all the other, it's a force that will be able to cope with any threat in the future that can be created afterwards. By the way, Turkey as well. I didn't talk about Turkey. It seems like we have quite a problem with Turkey. I think we have much more common with Turkey. When we talk about Syria, for example, I think it's much more relevant for us to try to rebuild trust with Turkey about what is going in Syria than to reach a conflict with it. But this can be created if we'll be able to talk with each other. It's not just about talking with Turkey or with Syria or with, no, I think the strength is all of them together. And I'm not talking about peace. Peace is vague. Sometimes it actually is, I think it has disadvantages to talk about peace. I talk about alliances, talk about things that actually everybody can enjoy from.
Got it. And speaking about Palestine, obviously, I mean, as far as we know, there was nothing in this ceasefire that actually was committed to end the war in Gaza, right? I mean, there is nothing that we are aware of that came out publicly about that. But on the other hand, it's bring us to a question that many asking in the chat is like the big difference in a way, and you can feel uncomfortable to answer that between the intelligence we had on October 7 and the success and that we saw in Iran. Like this dissonance is always like shocking to many of us here, and I assume in Israel. How is it explainable? Like how do you explain that?
There's a lot of issues going on with October 7th and what happened to the intelligence. But if I try to focus, I think that we see the difference between enemies where we actually take, I have to say, seriously and prepare ourselves. We are preparing ourselves to war with Hezbollah for 15 years. We prepare ourselves to war with Iran for 20 years. And it's about layers, we pray and annihilate. It's about intelligence and operations and whatever. There are quite a lot of things going on over there, and we prepared ourselves. We took Hamas in a different way. We thought we can take care of Hamas from time to time. We thought about the conception about bringing some money into Gaza to make everybody feel better with themselves. And we didn't put the same effort. We didn't prepare ourselves to a real war with it. We did have some, operation from time to time to deal with specific issues, specific threats, but we didn't look at Hamas as a whole, as we look at Hezbollah or at Iran.
I mean, I think the right way is to say that we looked at, I mean, the government or the conception was to look at Hamas as an asset and to, I mean, not to take them seriously.
I agree with you, but I'm looking for a military point of view.
Okay.
Because,
From a military point of view, you think about them as a terror organization, not as a country.
Exactly. Hezbollah was a country, even though we didn't fight with Lebanon, but it was like an army. Iran is a country. Hamas was a terror organization, so we deal with it as a terror organization, and they proved to us that there wasn't an army, but they are more than just terror organization.
Got it. I'm just taking this question from the chat, so please, those who are raising their hand, just write it down in the chat. There is a question that's coming up about, so we saw the devastation, right, of the rockets, of the missiles coming on Israel. I mean, like I think we have like almost 30 people that killed and tons of destruction, and this one of the assumptions was that they are planning to develop like 11,000 missiles that would probably create it could be created damage of an atomic bomb, a nuclear bomb. I mean, this is not being eliminated, right? I mean, like that's not part of the, even though we went as part of our war achievements or war goals, it was to eliminate the missile capabilities. I mean, and we saw different type of missiles coming in, mostly later. What can we do about that? And that's something that is going to keep going. I mean, and under this fear, or you see it as being eliminated as part of the agreement with Iran?
So, Israel and the US wanted to be part of the agreement. I don't think Iran will forget about or forgive about their missile capability, and they will claim that every country in the world have the right to protect itself. They have the right to protect themselves, and the missile is a part of their protection. I think they will decrease the amount of effort they're putting on manufacturing of new missiles, and especially, by the way, new launchers. This is the bottleneck. But there are still quite a lot of missiles in Iran from all kinds of types that can hit Israel, can hit other places as well. I'm not optimistic about eliminating this problem. We decreased it quite good. This is why, by the way, they didn't hit us much more. They aimed to they prepared to hit us in much larger scale. They couldn't, because of what the Air Force did to them. And I think that they will go on and rebuild some of the program. I do think that they won't be able to do, for example, maybe a missile to range to 2,000 kilometers. So there will be some wrong with what they can and can do, but I don't think we can eliminate this
You
problem.
don't think we can eliminate this program as
No, I
part of the
don't.
deal?
Not as a whole. Maybe to restrict it, but I don't see a possibility to eliminate it.
Got it. So before I close, and I'll give you the last part, I want to just mention that again. I mean, like one of the things we have seen, and actually, I would love your feedback about that, is the strengths of everything that was built in Israel in the last 75 years, technology-wise, critical thinking. People are saying that this was the advantage that we had over Iran, comparing to again, we are the size of the country is 60 times bigger, the population is 90 million. I mean, and that's what we are in a way fighting for when we're fighting for saving Israeli democracy. In that sense, just to clarify, I mean, like just to mention and to see, there will be next week discussion with Dina Zilber and with Gabi Lasky about democracy and what happened in democracy in Israel. But in that part, I mean, like when they hit Weizmann Institute, when they hit on the one hand, on the other hand, we saw the pilots going to Iran. What do you feel like is going to be the next advantage? Because in many ways we exposed everything in theory we had, right, in this war, right? We kind of like used in a way everything we could to slow down the program. Is there going to be more that we can do in the short term other than hitting back and forth like we do in Hezbollah? Um,
The short term, I don't think we have a lot of a new tricks on the sleeve, but I hopefully we won't need to actually to bring him to attention, because hopefully this this part of the game ended, this part of the war ended, and I think we'll have another one in a few years. Hopefully in 20 or 30 years, and not in 2 years, but who knows. But I think that some of the things that Israel need to do is actually to rebuild the penetration, the intelligence penetration to the right places. To look once again now about the infrastructure of Iran, about the organization, about the people, who we should eliminate, how we should, what covert operation we do to inflict them in the right time. You know, where the great ideas. James Bond is here. You know, I watched the last Mission Impossible yesterday, the first part, and actually I see some things. Hey, good. We thought it before you. There is, you know, you can understand what is going on sometimes with the intelligence and the operation arena in Israel. And I think actually we need now to start rebuild it again. And we did it once, we can do it again and even better. Because we have Weizmann Institute, and because we have the best cyber people in the world, because we have the best mathematicians in the world, because they have actually, by the way, they have the ability and the freedom to create, to innovate, to do things that no one does.
Yeah. And this is again, I mean, like what in a way what we are trying to make sure and to achieve, not to lose these capabilities when we are going to be more messianic and not critical thinking country. I would want to try and you mentioned it in your last sentence, but there is a question that is keep bugging me. I mean, what concrete intelligence benchmarks should we watch over the next few weeks to determine whether Iran's actual breakout time has meaningfully extended? So, what would be giving us a good question, a good sense that okay, we delayed it for a couple of years and not just a couple of months? I mean, if there is anything you can think about.
So first of all, of course, what I said about the 400 kilos of the high enrichment uranium, to understand where it is, what is going on with it. Personally, I think the Iranian will bring it to the table as a part of the negotiation. This is their card, this is what remains from the program. But if not, what is going on? You know, they can bring just 300 of the material to the table and say, hey, the other 100 was bombed by Israel. Go figure. But we need to understand what is going on with that. We need to get a grasp about the leadership, the new leadership of Iran. The leader itself remained, but all of the circle actually that is working with him is new, and we need to understand what is the main characteristics over there, what is the main ideas going over there, whether the more radical part that's calling to run and reach the nuclear capability, or the more pragmatic, led by the president, by the way, a weak president, I think, but by the president to go to the negotiation and to rebuild the
in the
economic.
Iranian president.
Yeah, the Iranian president.
Yeah.
I'm talking about. So there is a bunch of people that we need to get very close to understand what is going on. And I think at last, we need to look at some of the maneuvers of the other part of Iran, the missiles, the guard corps. And there are a lot of things that need to rebuild themselves. And the way that the defense of Iran, the security of Iran will be rebuilt is a sign about what is the part of the nuclear issue in this all of the philosophy of Iran defense.
Yeah. And of course, we didn't cover anything about regime change, even though it was like big words of Netanyahu and his coalition, and we know that Trump was never really going through that at that part. But I mean, we don't expect this to fall down like Syria fell after we eliminate Hezbollah. I mean, the regime seems to be strong enough to stay.
You know, Syria fell after 10 years of civilian war, where actually there wasn't any Syrian army. I don't see any fall of the regime at the moment. You know, the main thing you need in order to do a change of leadership is the leadership. And there is no real opposition in Iran that actually can say, hey, I'm going to be the next regime. I'm going to lead Iran to the next phase. We have the son of the Shah sitting in Los Angeles, in France, some of the time, actually talking about the change. He's not acceptable in Iran, by the way. The citizens of Iran doesn't want him. We need the youngsters in Iran to decide they want to change it. They talk about it, but they till now didn't do anything to change the regime. I do think that due to the fact that the regime is very weak at the moment, something can start. The snowball started to roll it, but it will take. It's not relevant at the moment.
It's not because of the 12 days war that it would happen.
No, I honestly I don't think you can change regime with bombs. You need to change it from inside.
Got it. Asaf, it was fascinating, and I really want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone who joined. I want to remind you to stay in touch and invite us to talk more with your communities, to actually talk about not just the external threat that Israel has, talk us about the internal threat that we are facing. Remember that Iran was a democratic liberal country once. And we shout in many of those rallies that Israel will not be Iran, and I really hope that it won't be. But in order to actually make that happen, we have to connect with all of you and all your communities to work together. So that would conclude our call, and we will meet next week with talking about Israeli democracy. So let's hope the hostages are back soon, the war in Gaza ends soon, and the ceasefire holds up with Iran. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.